Hello and welcome to the Heart of Collaboration. Thank you for welcoming us into your viewing audience. We appreciate you, and because of many of you, we have started right here on Paducah 2 a series called Local Artists, simple as that. And so we've had a ball contacting and talking to people and scheduling folk and getting them here, and today we're doing the same thing. And so we're so happy that you're going to be part of this great experience. The guest right now is Lady Dale McReynolds, and her better half sometimes, and sometimes she's the better half, is Reverend McReynolds. And so welcome, First Lady.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
much.
We
appreciate you. I know that you and your husband have a very, very busy life there at the church, but people need to know about you as the artist. And so we have several of your works here, but this is nowhere near what you've done over the years. But we're happy that you can be here and talk to us about this.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you asking me. I feel so honored to be here to share my work with you and with the general public.
Well, it wasn't long ago that we had Nelvin. Remember Nelvin, who's a new coordinator of arts and culture for Paducah? He and I have talked about you on several occasions. Absolutely. And and other artists in Paducah. And so he is really getting his feet wet in the 4 weeks, I think, that he's been in this position. And so we had a ball together. And you and I are going to have fun too.
Yes, indeed.
Here in our area, Paducah, McCracken County, and of course, Paducah 2 reaches out all over the place, regional and beyond. We have the opportunity to showcase some very, very talented people, men and women and youth as well. And then there's a particular emphasis that I have right now, and that is the Harlem Renaissance and the Black Arts Movement. We'll talk about that a little bit as we go along, but we want to primarily talk about the heart and the spirit of your work and what some of your work means to you. And then I'll come back to a little history on Harlem Renaissance and Black Arts Movement. Those were short periods. Harlem Renaissance was for about 20-year span, and the Black Arts Movement was about a 10-year span. But the art of talented people go on forever.
Yes.
And so let me let you give a shout out to your family, and then we'll talk about you from when you started, maybe as a little girl. I don't know.
Well, I give a shout out to my husband, my sister, my nieces and nephews that are still, and my brother. My brother lives in Atlanta. He's a minister down there. And my nieces have moved to Savannah, Georgia, Atlanta. They've all scattered around. We moved back here to be closer to family, and everybody's scattered.
Well, and guess what? Now you're going to become an artistic icon. What is the name of the church where you and your husband pastor?
First Missionary Baptist Church in Metropolis, Illinois, right off of 7th and Vienna.
Just in case you're that way on a Sunday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, and you just want to stop by.
Come on by. On Wednesday night, we have Bible and prayer service on Wednesday night, and we start our 11 a.m. service on Sunday morning. We do have Sunday school, so bring your children and stop by for a Sunday school and enjoy the service.
Wonderful. I know that you and your husband enhance the environment in the neighborhood because of your presence and your ministry. Tell us your background. When did you know that you could do this, and when did you start? And then tell us how your parents helped you and guided you along the way.
Okay, I was about 6 years old when I first drew my first picture, and I would draw pictures of the family, profile shots of the family, and to everybody else it was just like, oh, she can do that, haha, that's nice. And I kept going with it, and I got interested even more so. By the 6th grade, I was doing full face in 6th grade, and I drew my 6th grade teacher, and every time we would have a play or something like that, I would get the chance to be pulled out of class and go and do the backdrops, paint the backdrops and everything.
Backdrops?
Yes.
In the 6th grade?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes, I do all the backdrops there, and I just really would go my brother and I would go downtown Paducah when I don't know what the building is called now, but it used to be Paducah Drive right there on 4th and Broadway. And we would go and stand in the vestibule there because in the summer they had air conditioning and in the winter they had heat. The bus stop was right there as well. So we would go down there as kids, like 7 or 8 years old, when you could leave home at 6, 7, and 8 years old and be safe. We would go down there and stand in the vestibule and look at people, just watch people, and try to figure out their backgrounds, where they come from, what they do for a living, how many children they have, just different things about them. And most of the time we're laughing anyway, because we think of some funny things about people. And that pretty much got me interested in doing figures, the faces and what have you. And as I grew in high school, I took art in high school at Tillman. And after that, I did not go to take training in college for art. I would watch everybody. My family sort of supported me on that, but it was to them like learning to walk. Oh, she can walk. So, and then you learn to walk, and it becomes an old habit of things that you just do. So I did get a scholarship to a school in Cincinnati, but my mother turned it down because she didn't want me to leave home.
No.
So, but as far as my extended schooling in art, it's basically watching other people. I would go to different art shows and exhibits, and I would get right up on their pictures and look and see how their strokes were made. So I started out in oil, but oil didn't dry fast enough for me. So I went to acrylics, and acrylic was good, but then when I discovered pastels, that was like, ooh, yeah, that's it, that's gonna work. So I've limited myself, well, not limited myself, I still use oil and acrylics, but I use those for landscapes. But my portraits, I use pastels for that. It's easy for me. Other people think that it's hard, but it's not hard at all. For me, it's easier. I don't have to worry about it drying too fast or not fast enough. I can go back and erase as much as I want or take it all out of there. But that's why I do the pastel portraits. And I just love to do people because people are so interesting, so much more interesting. You can look in their faces and see almost their whole story in their faces, and the eyes and the lips will tell you almost everything you need to know about them.
I like the term that you use, their stories, as opposed to emphasizing their looks, but their stories. The stories define us. You're a beautiful woman, and when people look upon you, they see loveliness.
To God be the glory.
But when people look at your art, it's like they're looking in your heart, your soul. It's like they're looking into your spirit, because what you do comes from way inside.
I thank God for the gift. It took me a long time to understand the gift. For a long time, I would do a little bit, push it aside, because it wasn't putting food on my table. And when I realized that that's not what it was for, to put food on my table, but to allow others to enjoy, to feel something that they used to feel as a little girl or a little boy or a member of their family or someone they know. Oftentimes I get people saying, oh, you know what, I know who that is. I said, no, you don't. And they'll say, yes, that's Mr. So-and-so. I said, no, that's not Mr. So-and-so, because I don't know Mr. So-and-so. That is just from my inners, and to do the essence and characters of people that I remember. Is not a particular person. Now, if you want me to do a portrait of someone and I take a picture and draw from that, that's what I can do as well. But basically, like you see here, these are people from my childhood. that I remember, not their faces because it's such a long time ago, but I remember something special about them, their essence, their character, and then I try to bring that out. And when I start doing the picture, most times it's not like I want to do this and I want this done, I want that. I just go. And when I'm in the zone, so to speak, I don't stop until I get it done. So I'm there at least for maybe 7 or 8 hours doing one particular picture because it's just something about it that's drawing me to it to get it done. By the time I finish it, they tell me their story.
Wow.
So I never really have a story or anything in mind to do. I just start out. I have this envision of doing a particular picture a certain way. Sometimes when I start out, it ends up being something else entirely different. Entirely different. And then when I finish, they tell me the story.
You know, that's very poetic. When I know something that you said about that. I guess in essence, you didn't do this to make money with it. You did it to tell stories and to share stories and to pour out what God has poured into you on canvas.
Amen.
And then, of course, there are many who do it to make money. They're very commercial, and that's okay. I have really nice artwork in my house that I think a lot of, and when I pick pieces, then I pick my frames. I want to tell a little story about somebody else's work, and then I want to choose my frame, and I want to choose the mat, and I do my own framing as a rule. And when people say, "Where did you get that? Oh, that looks so expensive," and then I tell them, I said, "Well, I paid $24.99 for the print." At Hobby Lobby, you know, and at Michael's when they used to sell them, and I said, but the frame may have cost a couple more dollars, and the mat, and I said, because it isn't the price of the print that had the value for me, but it was something about that image that gave it significant value to me. It said something to me. It spoke to me, whether it was a person, or whether it was something abstract. I was telling the guys who run this department that I paint abstract, and when I paint the what I feel. But it might not make sense to anybody else, and so when I do these things, I put them in the mail and I mail them off to people I've known for years, and I signed it and I said, if it is ever worth anything, it's all yours. And then, but when you said tell the story, sometimes the story is only clear to you. Is that true?
Sometimes it is only very, not so often though. I have some things that were only clear to me that I just keep back in the back because I figure that no one else would understand it, and it's kind of iffy anyway. But the majority of them, I think it resonates with a lot of other people. They'll see something. For instance, the picture behind you, that young lady back there, I wasn't intending to do that. My intentions was to do a picture of someone that says identity. So I was at here, as a matter of fact, when Najjar came and did an exhibit here, and he was showing a video, and it was talking about identity. And I went, identity? I said, that's exactly what I'm getting ready to do. And so I told him, I said, Najjar, you just confirmed the picture that I'm getting ready to do for identity, and it's called Who Am I? And so I went home and I started working on it, and I finished it. It took me about a day and a half to do that particular picture back there. And I said, well, identity, who am I? Should it be with a question mark, exclamation point, or just a period at the end of the sentence? So I named it, and I took it to Hobby Lobby to have it backed, because I do all my framing, I do all my matting, cut all of that, invested in a mat cutter.
Oh, you cut your mats?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I invested in a mat cutter. It was costing a lot to have that done. So I said, well, I could learn to do that and get it done. So I did that, but I have them to do my backings for me and put the wires on, because I love the paper that they use on there. And the young lady there saw it and she says, oh.
Amy?
Tammy.
Tammy?
Tammy. Yes, she saw
Shout
it.
out.
She said, yes, Tammy. And she said, that's deep. I had showed her the picture from my tablet, and she loved it. And when I brought the actual picture in, she said, oh, that's deep. I said, I'm going to name it Who Am I? She says, perfect. Perfect for it. So she was telling me how she felt about it, what she saw in the picture that I did not see in the picture. And from time to time it goes like that. Other people will tell me what they see that I don't see in the picture. But they still telling their story to me, but they'll tell you maybe a different story, which is great. It's what it's all about. You see what you see in it, I see what I see in it, and somebody else will see something different in it.
Well, this might be an unfair question, but there are artists that seem to take forever to finish a piece. And then they just cover it up and stick it to a wall somewhere, and then they'll start on another piece, and it take forever to do this piece. And the next thing you know, it's a year and they haven't finished anything. And I wonder about that process. What's going on when it takes a long, long, long time for an artist to do a piece and they kind of flit around here and there? What's going on with those artists?
I really don't understand it myself, because I see some that do the same thing. They take such a long time, take about a year or so with a picture. Are you engaged in that? Is it that you need to do a particular piece and then stop for a while until something else comes to you to put in there? I've never had that problem myself, because once I start on something, and if I don't like where it's going and I can't fix it, then I'll push it aside and start something else, because I feel like it's not for me to do that one right now, to go to something else and start that. But to take a year to no, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you why.
I think the only thing that will take me a year to do is a dissertation. Lady McReynolds, I'm hyper, and I'm focused hyper though. If one thing takes me too long, I am not a happy camper.
That's why
I need
I
to
don't
take a
do
walk.
oils.
I need to go plant some flowers. I need to do something, because that does not work for me.
I know. That's why I don't do oils, because it takes too long for it to dry, and I want to get right at it. And that's why I do the pastels, because I can sit there. My husband, he doesn't bother me. He just goes around me. My studio is in my kitchen, and I sit there and I put my headphones on and I'm listening to some music. I'm listening to Shirley Murdoch, and I just go on and start going. And once I get to a certain point that it's like, oh, it starts to speak, I can't stop. I'll get up and maybe take a 30-minute break, and then I'll come back and I'll look. Okay, this needs this. Then I'm sitting down and I start working again, and it's about an hour or so goes, and then I say, okay, it's time to cook supper and just eat and what. Well, let me fix this, and I'm down for another hour or so, and before I know it, I finished it. I have to finish it, because once, like I said, I get into that zone and it starts to speak to me, and I've got to get it done. So there's been times I've done one in just a day. It took me about 8 hours to do, 7 hours. very seldom does it take me 4 days to do a picture. If it's, I've had one that took me about 5 days, and it had about 10 people in it. So that's the and it was huge. So that's the reason why it took me that long to do that one, even though I had the photographs there with me. But I wanted to make sure that it was perfect. So I like to make sure when someone gives me something to do, it has to be just right.
Yes.
Perfect. So when they see it, they see exactly what I see in that picture, or what they really wanted to see in that picture, and do it that way. But that long periods,
I envision you not even thinking about taking that finished work to get it backed. That before you take it to get it back, before you mat it at your house, you are 100% totally sure it's done.
yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm a kind of a detail person. That's why I call myself a focused hyper, because I'm big on details, and sometimes it gets on people's nerves. It gets on my husband's nerves. It gets on people's nerves, but it has to be well with my soul.
Yes.
Even when I'm learning a song, writing a sermon, completing a counseling packet for someone that I'm nurturing. Whatever it is, I've got to have those details before I take it to whoever I'm going to take it to, or before I get before God's people. It's got to be how it's supposed to be. Now, if God changes it while I'm behind the microphone, that's all right. That's what He's large and in charge. So it's okay. But I envision you being that way. Because when I was listening to you say that when you mat it, and then you frame it, and then you take it to get it bagged, I'm thinking, all right, she's got her steps, she's got her phases, and everything's got to be in place.
Yes.
But you know, to me, that's the heart of an artist, because when you pour out your soul like that, your soul has value. And so whatever has value is worth being detailed about. And chiseling out those finer points and those finer details, because when you are doing work like this, and you're doing work that we're surrounded by, and much work that's not even here in the studio, when people look at your work, you want them to know that you poured life's details into them, and it shows.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, I put a lot of effort into it. There's one that's not here that I went back. This one, as a matter of fact, I did rework that one before I had a permanent backing put on it. And there's one that I just had the backing placed on it. And I went back and reworked that because there was just something about it that just wasn't clicking. I thought I was finished with it, but it wasn't clicking right. So I had to go back, even if it's just a little line somewhere on the lip, or a little bit of highlight or shadow on the nose, or whatever that wasn't sitting right with me. It had to be perfect.
And so the lighting and the details of your work, and I hope I'm not causing a glare over here, because one of the guys is going to get me after we're done. But when I do look at these details, I even see the glint in this beautiful woman's eyes. And when you capture those nuances, then it goes from being a picture to being a human reflection. It's a human reflection. And some work, some of your work that I've seen has caused me to become very emotional, because I can sense the love and the outpouring and the inpouring that took place in the course of you doing either of your works.
Well, thank you, thank you. This one, which one is it? This one right here, and that one, I really am drawn to those two because of the eyes on it. This one, I took a pair of glasses that I have at home. They were my husband's mother's glasses, and they were like from the 1940s. And something drew me to the glasses. And I said, I've got to do these. And it kept on me for a couple of months. And finally I got around to it after I finished that one there. And I said, well, the eyes, on both of those, because I was kind of proud of the eyes on this one. And I said, well, the eyes have to be exquisite on this one because the focus is on the glasses in there. And then you can see all the little dots in the iris and all of those little things that happen in the eyes on both of these pictures that I kind of like. And it made them just really just stand out like they're real.
And when you look into the eyes, then it's almost like there's a communication going back and forth.
Right.
And you want to take your time and be still and see what those eyes are saying to you.
They're telling you a story.
Yes.
There.
And maybe maybe multiple stories. Maybe one that will be more sensitive to my heart, you know.
Right. Because this one right behind you there, my nephew asked me, he says, well, Auntie, why didn't you lighten up the other side a little bit? I said, because she's telling you a particular story there. I said, she's telling you that you can see one side of me. Is that how you identify me, with this side? You don't know the dark side of me. The other side of me you can't see. My past you can't see. So you can't fully identify me. You don't fully know me. Because you don't know my past, and it's back over here on the dark side that you can't see. So what you need to do is, if you could take yourself and look in the mirror, look at one side and see who you are from this side, then turn to this side and see who you are from this side, and put them together. That makes you the whole person. It gives you an identity, a total, real, truth identity.
I got to figure out how to make that a sermon. I'm trying to work it in my mind. I want to say that when I look at your work, I do see the intellectual, the social, the artistic flavor that was significant in the Harlem Renaissance period. I remember talking to my daddy. Now, my daddy had a 4th grade education, one of the smartest men I knew. And so he knew that I liked art. And so he used to buy all the books and everything that he could find for me to read, and then to show me things, because he wanted me to be well versed in everything. Smart with a 4th grade education. Some of the dumbest folk I know have PhD, but my dad, it was
we
brilliant.
Just had that in Bible study.
He knew what to do. He knew what to do, and I thank God for Daddy Ernest Stewart. Thank you, and my mother Florence Stewart, who both of them together made sure that we were exposed to so much. I want to thank you for coming on. I'd like to bring you back in a few months and talk a little bit more about your art. And then I would like to talk about some of the stories, specific stories that come with the baby here, and this beautiful woman here, and some of the men and the women, and then let's take it deeper. How about that?
That's great. Fine with me.
You heard it from Lady Dale McReynolds. She said it's so, and that settles it. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for loving the heart of collaboration. I appreciate you. God bless.